What do the games Tempest 2000, Earthworm Jim, and Samurai Shodown 2 all have in common? These three amazing games were all reviewed in 1995, but they were not that year's best games. At least, not according to Next Generation magazine, who gave all three of these all-time classics 4 stars out of 5. Yeah, as crazy as it sounds, Next Generation gave 17 different games a higher score than Daytona USA and Ridge Racer. I'm talking about the perfect 5-star rating. And today we're going to go through all of these reviews to see what makes them worthy of this coveted prize. This is Next Generation's 5-star reviews, and these are the 17 best games of 1995.
Have you experienced the awesome power of the Panasonic Real 3DO system? Obviously. Yeah. The intense realism of Panasonic Real 3DO. Apparently. Or the mind-blowing graphics of Panasonic Real 3DO. Definitely. Cool. The Real 3DO system from Panasonic.
Alright, up first, we have the arcade version of Alpine Racer. Executing an original approach with its newest coin-op title, Alpine Racer, Namco has achieved something truly pleasing to see. Bringing snow into the arcade, that's one thing. Stepping out on a limb with a single-player skiing game that looks more like a treadmill, well, that's also worth contemplating. But by being both an innovative new sports game and simulation, this title holds the strong potential to attract both sexes in equal measure. Next Generation reporters were waiting in line behind both men and women, eager to step up and try their legs on the steep, polygonal, texture-mapped slopes, complete with moving gondolas, enchanting mountainous backdrops, mixed rocks and icy stretches, and harrowingly steep passages that create a sense of dizziness and speed. Because of its atypical approach and success in execution, Namco's Alpine Racer makes the grade, and lowers the price of skiing in the process. Number 2, Apache on the PC. Wild Bill Steely, one of the founders of sim giant Microprose, is back, and it's no surprise that Interactive Magic's first project is a stunningly realistic simulation of one of the most complex military aircrafts of all time, the weapon-packed AH-64D Apache Longbow helicopter. Just getting the thing to fly without plunging into the ground takes skill and practice, to say nothing of staying alive in a hostile environment. In a concession to the Doom generation, though, there is an arcade mode in this game that greatly simplifies the controls and enables you to get up and kill quickly. Overall, the combination of extreme realism in the flight model with satisfying scenarios puts Apache very near the top of the simulation heap. Number 3, Blade Force on the 3DO. This isn't the first release from Studio 3DO, but it is the most significant for a number of reasons. At a time when 3D, polygonal-based texture-mapped environments are becoming de rigueur, show off standards among the newer next-gen consoles, it begs the question, just how can an aging 3DO keep up? If Blade Force is any indication, we are pleased to answer the question, just fine. Granted, the technical limits of 3DO compared to Saturn and PlayStation are apparent. The textures are simpler, and the drawn horizon is much closer than you see with the other systems. But it's a testament to the Blade Force design team that you simply wouldn't notice or care unless you looked. This is easily one of the best games ever made for the 3DO or any system. Number 4, Command & Conquer on PC. Touting a hard-hitting soundtrack and some lightning-fast action, Command & Conquer turned out to be worth the wait. Although the graphics are a bit clunky, the gameplay is smooth as silk. Unit control is simple and intuitive, similar in many ways to the company's previous hit, Dune 2, while the strategy remains deep and complex. Multimedia audio and full-motion video cutscenes add tremendous amounts of depth to a game that's already fun and dangerously addictive. All in all, Command & Conquer is a game that any strategy fan should pick up. Number 5, the arcade version of Cruis'n USA. After the confined loops of Daytona USA and Ridge Racer, Midway and Nintendo head back to the open road in Cruis'n USA for coast-to-coast racing. 2 things to remember. 1. This game is, new word folks, home perfect. Supposedly, and there is some doubt based on the Ultra 64 hardware, this is exactly the same game you'll play at home in fall of 1995. Number 2, with 14 varied stages, 8 cars, and multiple start points, Cruis'n offers real long-term play outside of the arcades. While less graphically impressive than its rivals, Cruis'n USA is the Outrun sequel that Sega should have done, and it's our pick for the racing crown. Number 6, FIFA International Soccer on 3DO. More than any other game, FIFA International Soccer will make you glad to own a 3DO system. In terms of technical achievement, this is the killer app graphic show horse that Tripp & Company have been waiting for. And it's a great game, too. Using a slick, rotating camera effect, complete with multiple views and more detailed player graphics, the new FIFA delivers an improved realistic feel without sacrificing the friendly interface and flawless 2-player action that made the original so popular. Number 7, Interactive Fiction Collection on PC. Remember the classic Infocom text adventures of the 80s? Simply put, they're some of the greatest adventure games of all time. Now, Activision has again released the games in a series of 5 collections: fantasy, mystery, adventure, sci-fi, and comedy. Each has 4 to 6 games and 2 bonuses, Planetfall and a Zork installment. If you buy all of these packages, you can get every Infocom game that you could ever want to play and the complete Zork series. From the slow-building terror of the lurking horror to the surreal wordplay of Nord and Bert, we can't recommend just one title. If you want to have anything approaching a complete game library, then you're gonna need to grab all of these. Number 8, Jumping Flash on the PlayStation. In these early PlayStation days, we will no doubt get a good idea of the heights the machine will stretch. Many of the boundaries have been redefined in a big way because of this game. Jumping Flash is just the kind of game that will legitimize a new console in a hurry. From concept to execution, everything here is simply superb. There is no escaping the cute factor in this game, but never has there been such a fine excuse for cuteness. The game must be played to be truly understood. Number 9, Mortal Kombat 2 on the Super Nintendo. The once child-safe Nintendo actually called up Acclaim to ensure an equally bloody version of Mortal Kombat 2. As a result, this is the first Nintendo game ever to carry a content rating on its box. The Super Nintendo version is unquestionably better than the Genesis card in every way. The graphics are richer, the sound is deeper, the control is smoother. Almost every secret's been ported over as well, with at least 10 more codes added just for this version. With full creative license, Acclaim has produced probably the best arcade conversion ever. And we're back with number 10, NBA Live 95 on the Super Nintendo. Last year, Electronic Arts dropped the Bulls vs. Whoever heading and changed the game completely for this 1995 release. A new engine features smoother, faster players and a new off-basket perspective. Every official rule is now included, and the NBA teams and players' licenses are again used. Shooting has a much better feel, there's a turbo feature similar to the one in NBA Jam, and some nice finishing touches like random stats after scoring and taunting after you dunk. Live 95 emerges as the best basketball sim available. Number 11, NHL 96 on the Genesis and Super Nintendo. NHL 95 on the Genesis was arguably the best sports simulation product ever. Instead of messing with near perfection, EA added new features and changed the look a bit, and the superb gameplay of the '95 version has only improved. The additions are subtle and effective. Players have a new sharper look and are starting to resemble humans as opposed to blocks of pixels. The sound was enhanced with more effects like the slamming door of the penalty box. And the computer opponent is a bit tougher so that winning every game isn't as easy as it used to be. The only thing possibly wrong with this game is that every other sports game in your library may pale in comparison. Number 12, Super Bomberman 2 on the Super Nintendo. The first Super NES Bomberman managed to gather a decent following, mostly due to the word of mouth. The second game doesn't play that much differently from the first, with slight enhancements to the one-player mode and a few new stages for the battle mode. The basic Bomberman structure has changed very little. As a one-player game, Super Bomberman 2 is okay, but it's an absolutely incredible multiplayer game. The more players that join in, the more fun the action becomes, as up to 5 Bombermen run around trying to blow each other away. This is truly God's perfect party game. Number 13, Virtua Fighter Remix on Saturn. When a new hardware hits the market, there's always a bit of flashy software created to grab everybody's attention. Does anybody remember ActRaiser on the Super Nintendo or Sewer Shark for the Sega CD? While these games perform a valuable service, the first few games for a new system are, in the long run, not going to be terribly impressive because of the developer's inexperience with the system. A perfect example of this phenomenon is Virtua Fighter for the Saturn. At first glance, the game looks good and certainly plays well, but the truth is, the game is full of glitches and subpar performance standards. Enter Virtua Fighter Remix. Perhaps never in video game history has a problem such as Virtua Fighter been so quickly and thoroughly corrected. Virtua Fighter can now trade blows with the likes of Tekken and, yes, even Battle Arena Toshinden, although the fighting styles are still vastly different. Number 14, Virtual Pool on the PC. Virtual Pool looks so simple on the surface that it would be easy to overlook what's really going on underneath. But just a few minutes of play will reveal the title to be one of the most impressive games on the market. Interplay has dressed Virtual Pool up with some multimedia chrome, but it could just as easily have left it out. The core of Virtual Pool, the game itself, is as close to perfect as a PC game can get. And the variety of games available plus the multiplayer option make it a great deal. Number 15, Wing Commander 3, Heart of the Tiger on the 3DO. The premier space combat sim for PC arrives on 3DO, and it's everything you could have hoped for. Origin pulled out all the stops when it came to putting this one together. Gone are the animated pilots of Wing Commander 1 and 2. Instead, Origin brought in some real star power. Mark Hamill, John Rhys-Davies, and Malcolm McDowell top the list of recognizable actors and all make a big difference in realism. Flight is noticeably less smooth and also seems less challenging somehow than the PC version, but it still flies extremely well. If you can't afford to play Wing Commander 3 on a 100 MHz Pentium with CD-ROM, this makes a more than acceptable alternative and is the best 3DO game of the year. Number 16, wipEout on PlayStation. There have been a number of next-generation games with their share of flash, but not much substance. wipEout stands tall above these titles, with more flash and substance than most games were ever meant to have. Set in the future, this hovercraft racer boasts some of the best-looking landscapes seen to date, with equally exquisite tracks resting gracefully on hills and valleys of each environment. wipEout is, in every way, an exhilarating game with a real feeling of quality through and through. If there's anything left in the racing genre to look forward to now, it's a sequel. A new high watermark has been set by Psygnosis' wipEout. And finally, number 17, World Series Baseball starring Deion Sanders on the Sega 32X. Arguably the best baseball series on the market, World Series Baseball 95 has made its way to the 32X. And everything that made World Series Baseball on the Genesis the best baseball game ever is here. This title features all 28 stadiums, up-to-date rosters, a full season, drafting, all-time greats, stats, and even an all-star game based on players' performances from the season that you just played. World Series 95 on the 32X isn't much better than its 16-bit counterpart, but it's easily the best baseball game available. This one won't disappoint.
Ne, Sega Saturn ってそんなに面白いの? Ne, Sega Saturn ってそんなに面白いの? Ne.
面白いから売れているセガサターンバーチャファイターリミックスがセットで34,800円限定発売
Sega.
Hey, thanks for taking the time to tune in to this premiere episode of Next Generation's 5-Star Reviews. Oh man, it feels so good to be back. I really did miss reading these next-gen reviews, and I'm excited to dig into the next 6 years over the next few weeks. I hope you'll come along for the ride. We're going to be back tomorrow with the 1996 edition, which, let me tell you, is absolutely packed. Now, here's the question I have for you. What's your favorite game of 1995? Was it one of these 5-star games, or maybe something that Next Generation just slept on? Let me see your picks in the comments below. In other news, happy Thanksgiving to everybody celebrating today. You may be watching me right now on YouTube, but I'm currently at my folks' place celebrating the holidays. Don't worry, I'm going to get to more reviews and EGM ranks when I get back, so be on the lookout for that next week. In the meantime, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,